Soon after World War II, on the heels of the Nazi genocide, the dark period so-called the Black Years began. Stalin started his mission of exterminating the Jewish people using systematic anti-Jewish propaganda to turn public opinion against Jews. He choreographed and prepared a careful program. Stalin invented crimes supposedly committed by Jews, and these crimes were so terrible that they could only be punished by death. In January 1953, a new article, entitled Doctor's Plot, was published, accusing Jewish doctors of planning to kill and poison top communist leaders. Stalin's program produced mass hysteria. The atmosphere in the apartment where Betty and Anna lived changed dramatically. All the women who were so friendly with Betty suddenly started to treat her with silence. "You are a Jewish nurse." Nick spoke to Betty, walking into the kitchen. "Are you planning to poison me too? Stop harassing her." Jenna yelled at her husband, but he cursed, slapping her face. "You both deserve to be sent to Siberia." He growled with anger. "I would have more space in the room without you." Jenna had no place to go, so he tolerated her nasty anti-Semite husband, though, luckily, she found a place for Betty and Anna. It was a room in an apartment that belonged to an old Georgian woman. Her name was Vera. In her youth, Vera was a stunning beauty. Men fell for her magnificence and extravagance. Even though beauty was the only thing she had, it was enough for a wealthy young count from St. Petersburg to fall in love with her. They got married and had 2 sons. The count had a beautiful palace in the center of St. Petersburg. The rooms of the palace were luxurious, with large, specially designed mosaic stained glass windows, 15-foot colored marble columns, beautiful parquet, and exclusively painted ceilings. It was decorated with priceless art and rich furnishings. Even though the count was very wealthy, he was against the Russian Tsar and helped the communist revolutionaries. When the communist government took power, he had to surrender a part of his palace. However, they made an exception for him and let him keep a 3-room apartment in his palace. Also, the Soviet government didn't care much about the art. Therefore, the count was able to preserve all his priceless paintings, and they covered the walls of his apartment entirely. The count died before the war, and Vera inherited all his belongings. Vera spoke with a heavy Georgian accent. When she was young, this accent suited her very well. When she became a widow, the accent made her a stranger among Russians, but she had 2 grown-up sons and could care less about people's prejudices. When the war started, her sons were drafted and never came back. They were killed. Vera managed to survive the Leningrad blockade. However, she didn't have anything to live for. She was old, lonely, and full of hate. Now, she lived in her huge 3-room apartment alone. All the other rooms of the palace were overcrowded. Every room was occupied by a family with 2 or 3 generations. The neighbors didn't like Vera, being very jealous, and she couldn't stand them either. Vera was not a Jew, but since she was different, people hated her the same as they hated all the Jews. During the blockade bombing, the stained glass mosaic got broken, and Vera didn't have any means to install new glass. The cold, pitiless winter was coming, and she needed firewood. She tried to sell some of her priceless paintings that were still hanging on the walls of her apartment, but was not able to find a customer. She decided to share her apartment with somebody in exchange for glass and firewood. Betty was very happy to have finally found a place of her own. She went to the army committee again and asked for window glass and firewood, presenting them her medals of honor. This time, they granted her what she asked for, and Betty and Anna moved into one of Vera's rooms. Betty hoped for a better future, but Vera didn't give her a chance. She had suffered from her loneliness for such a long time, and was so angry at life and people in general for her fate that she had gotten accustomed to her condition. This gorgeous, young, energetic mother with a little baby irritated Vera terribly. She was so upset with her misery that she was not capable of taking advantage of the life that had entered her apartment, and instead of enjoying it, she had a very bad attitude. The entrances to the bathroom and the kitchen were in the corridor, and to get there, Betty had to cross the living room. That was Vera's living room, and she spent her entire time there. It was an unpleasant experience watching a young mother walking in and out of her room, carrying her stuff around, preparing food, and taking care of her baby, who always made noise. Vera was utterly irritated and grew annoyed. She burst into hysteria at the end of the first day. "I want peace and quiet. Don't walk in and out all day long. Stay in your room. If you want to get out, you have to ask permission. Understood?" Betty was shocked. "I can't ask you for permission every time," she said. "I have too many things to take care of." "Then shut your door when you come out. Your bastard baby is too loud." "What did you say?" Betty was furious. "You heard me. Don't you ever use that word again. You know nothing about me and my baby." "I know enough. Do you even know who the father is, or were there too many of them in the army?" Vera smirked. "Yes, there were too many of them who loved me dearly, but you are not capable of understanding it because all you did during the war was sit in your apartment guarding your priceless paintings and waiting until it was all over. What do you know about me? You bitch. I lost both my boys at war. What do you know about any of this? Get out." Vera lost her temper. "I hope you don't mean it," Betty replied. The dispute was interrupted by the sound of glass breaking. A rock flew into the living room through the window. Both women startled, and a sudden heavy silence hung in the air. Betty picked up the rock. It was wrapped in a piece of paper. She unwrapped it and read it aloud, "You too, stinky Jew and Georgian. Get out of my country. Your place is in Siberia, or an oven would be even better." She looked at Vera. "We do not deserve this kind of treatment from each other, Vera. And we have to stop this fight. We need each other." Vera didn't answer and Betty left the room. Betty tried her hardest to comply with the unexpected requirements, but it was extremely hard and nerve-wracking. Betty's life was awful, though it was better than living in a kitchen closet with mice. It was May 9, 1946. Betty was in her room when she heard the doorbell, and then Vera talking to somebody unusually politely. "Betty, it's for you," she said shortly. "And I expect you to be quiet." There were 3 military men standing at the door. "Oh my God!" Betty cried out. "Guys! I can't believe it." She hugged the men like they were her brothers as Vera watched silently. There were 2 pictures of young men dressed in the same kind of uniform standing on her bed stand. They looked so similar to these newcomers. She wanted to hug them and cry on their shoulders. She wanted to talk to them and listen to their stories forever. She wanted to cook them the chicken soup that her boys loved so much. She wanted them to comfort her, embracing her in their strong arms. She wanted. "Happy holiday, sweetheart. Thanks. You too. Come on in. It's so good to see you. You too. How are you? Nick. You look much better than the last time I saw you. Thanks to you. You fixed me. Happy birthday to your Anna. This is for her." Another soldier gave her a toy. "Oh, thank you so much, Vasil. She'll be so happy. Come to my room. Please." Later, 4 more military men came, and they all spent the entire night in Betty's room, talking and singing. They were loud, and Vera didn't sleep that night. Betty expected to fight with her again in the morning, but to her surprise, Vera was quiet. It was 1947, 2 long years after the war ended. One night, somebody knocked on the door. Betty listened as Vera opened it, and then yelled, "Go away. I don't have a place for orphans." The next moment, the door was slammed shut. Betty got out of her bed and walked outside her room. "Vera, who was it?" "I don't know. Some orphan asked for you." But you can't bring her here. My apartment is not an orphanage. Vera yelled. It's enough for me to have you with your waif. She hatefully glanced at the door to Betty's room. I told you, Vera. Watch your mouth. Betty said firmly. I don't have to watch my mouth with a slut like you. Betty rushed out to the doorway. Hey! Who are you? She called to the dark figure, which was stepping downstairs, away from the apartment. I'm Maya. Maya. Oh my God. Betty ran downstairs and embraced Maya into her arms. She had grown up just a bit from the last time Betty had seen her in Aunt Ricky's apartment, and it felt like it was 100 years ago. What are you doing here, Maya? What's happening to you? Aunt Ricky died, she cried. They took her room and sent me to an orphanage. Oh. Maya. I'm so sorry. Betty hugged the girl tight. I have nobody to go to. I don't want to be in an orphanage. They beat me up all the time. Maya sobbed. Oh. My dear, I'm starving there. Betty, please. Can I stay with you? I'll do your dishes. I'll clean your room, she begged. Oh. My dear girl. Betty held her tight. It's not my apartment, but I won't let you go. I swear. I'll think of something. They were standing in the middle of the darkness holding each other and crying. Betty had no idea what to do, but she knew that she would never let her go. She would never. Then, she had a thought. You stay here. Okay. I'll be back. I have an idea. Just don't go anywhere. Don't move. Maya nodded as Betty disappeared into the apartment. In a couple of minutes, she came back with food and a couple of blankets. They went downstairs to the building basement. It was warm and dry because there was a heater there. Betty put the blankets together, making a bed for the girl, while Maya ate eagerly. You stay here for now. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do. Okay? Yeah. You promise that you won't disappear in the morning? I promise. Good. Because if you do, I'll be very upset. I love you, Maya. I'll find a way for us to be together. Maya nodded. Betty stayed with Maya until she fell into a deep sleep and then left. The next morning, while Anna was still asleep, Betty decided to check on Maya. She knocked on her door, to let Vera know that she was coming out of her room. Vera didn't answer as usual. Betty entered the living room. Vera was not there. It was very strange. Betty walked to the kitchen, made a snack for Maya, and went down the stairs to check on her. Maya was still there, sleeping. Betty left the snack right next to her and came back to the apartment. Something was not right. Vera never slept this late. The apartment was unusually quiet. Betty never entered Vera's bedroom, but this time she decided to break the rule. She knocked on the bedroom door and opened it. Vera was lying in her bed, unmoving, looking at Betty with wide-open eyes filled with fear. This look was so familiar to Betty. Vera, are you okay? She asked, getting inside. Vera produced some sound, but it was impossible to understand what she said. Nevertheless, Betty knew exactly what had happened to her. Vera. I'm going to ask you a few questions. If the answer is yes, blink your eyes, and don't blink your eyes if the answer is no. Vera was emotional and murmured something, but nothing worked for her. Vera. I'm not going to hurt you. Okay. Please don't be afraid of me. I'm your friend. I'll help you, if you want me to, or if you don't want me to help you, I'll call an ambulance. Now, blink your eyes, if you understood what I just said. Vera blinked her eyes. Good. Can you move your right hand? Vera didn't blink. What about your left hand? Vera lifted it a little. Good. Do you see me well? Vera didn't blink. Are you dizzy? Vera blinked. Vera, you had a stroke. I can help you, if you want me to. I can call an ambulance if you don't want me to help you. But usually, they don't come for people of your age, or if they come, it might be too late. You might die. If I help you, you have a good chance to survive and get well. Vera, I have a nurse's diploma, but I have a doctor's experience, and I'm willing to help you. So, tell me, do you want me to help you? Vera blinked. Good. Betty was relieved. Do you know what a stroke is, Vera? She didn't blink. Your artery is clogged, and the blood is not coming to your brain the way it should. This is why you can't talk and can't move. Your brain doesn't work properly without blood. I'm going to give you a shot to help your blood flow, and you'll feel a little better. Okay? Vera blinked. Betty came back to Vera in a few minutes with medication. Vera, later, you'll take aspirin on a regular basis. Also, regardless of how you feel, if you want to survive, you have to take it easy and stay in bed. I have a girl who is willing to take care of you, if you don't mind her living in my room temporarily. So tell me, if you don't mind. Vera blinked.